All right, welcome. I'm Norman Kinsey with Real Estate vs. Technology as your host. We have your co-host, Mr. Dan Gandy. Welcome, Dan.
Thanks for having me on.
Of course, of course. And we have the one and only... Welcome to Real Estate vs. Technology. Well, you'll get the inside scoop from top producing real estate professionals all around the country, best practices, techniques, and learn about what technology they're using to drive to ensure their success in this world we call real estate. One and only James, and James is someone that I see on Instagram all the time. He's giving and giving and giving. He reached out to us, we put the show together, and we're excited to have you on the show today, James.
Thank you for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Of course. So with the show, it's all about you. We want to learn a little bit more about your story and what made you get into business, how you're using technology to grow and scale your business. So let's start from the top, and let's ask these three questions kind of go together. So let's find out, what made you get into business, how long you've been in the business, and who are you with?
What got me in the business was my parents were also real estate agents in Southern California, and I was out of high school, and then I joined the Army, did my stint there, and when I was coming out, I really didn't know what to do, so I joined the family business really strictly as a telemarketer, cold calling for listings. My dad was a buyer's agent, my mom was a listing agent.
Okay.
And I just came on calling, and as soon as my ego got too big, I broke away from the family. I mean, that's the truth. There was my brother, my sister, and I, all in the same room, but we were all really just telemarketers. It was with my mom and dad that were, the agents.
Yeah. I
just broke off on my own, and just from there, just hit the ground running. I never really had a fear of picking up the phone and calling.
Okay.
Fast forward 2 marriages and 15 years, and on my I made a couple of moves, a lot of moves. There's so much more to the story, but I moved a lot during my real estate career. And in 2003, I landed in a territory in the Inland Empire, and finally became an agent that was a household name versus just a telemarketer. I mean, for the first 15 years of my business, it was really just pick up the phone, set the appointment, get the listing, and then I would not do any past clients, no sphere of influence. I was just jeans and a t-shirt all the time, except for the listing presentation. There was no graphics, there was no social media. I mean, this is up until 2003, 2004. And then when I finally settled in, got a house, had the wife and the family, I started becoming a member of society and started branding myself. And then the market took a dump, and became an REO king, which was horrible. I never want to own that, title ever. It was just not worth it. If it ever happens again, I'll do strictly short sales. It was not fun. And just rode through the market, I've always been very tech savvy, and I've always enjoyed teaching myself to learn a lot of the technology. So I embraced it wholeheartedly from the very beginning. Always done video, started a podcast in 2009, started the YouTube channel around 2009, but never really did something serious with it because there was no platform or structure for it. And over the last 6 or 7 years, with my business and with my family, just rocking the real estate thing full time. My wife is a TC, and she's a licensed agent, but she's a stay-at-home mom too. Wow. So she's got more work than I do. I just go out there, do a lot of door knocking up until the whole COVID thing. I wrote a book on door knocking, and then it hit the fan. And ever since then, it just changed to telemarketing weather again. When it rains outside, I pick up the phones. When it's sunny out, I door knock.
Yeah,
that's all just primarily doing that. And then, of course, social media, telemarketing is a huge part of it. Door knocking, when I get back into it, will definitely be a part of it. But it's massive lead gen and follow-up, and then everything in between. But a heavy emphasis on lead generation.
Wow. I believe you're with Century 21?
Century 21 in Southern California.
Okay. Yeah. That's awesome. Love it.
Yeah.
And then thanks for sharing that. That's it's very intuitive to adapting with the market. But just a few questions on my end to start things off. In terms of buyer, seller, agent, volume you do, tell me a little bit more detail about your current business platform and how you're operating.
The current volume will be 20 to 30 sides a year. Since 1993, I counted about 1,300 sides. Just as a single agent with my wife and I let me backtrack in saying the biggest mistake I ever made was relocating. And if I would go to the very beginning, and had I just had somebody tell me, don't move, like stay right here and figure it out right here, like do not relocate. I mean, I literally relocated 5 different marketplaces. I mean, where I'm nobody starting at zero. And I did it one more time in 2016, where I picked up an area where, you know, you knock on 10 doors and 9 people will say my name. You know, if you did a survey that said, hey, who's the #1 agent? And to this day, 4 years later, I still continue to get maybe 10, 15 sides from a year from that territory. And I'm not even there, but it's just the momentum that I gained as a recognized brand in a community. And so 4 years ago, I moved out here where I'm struggling. You know, it's always a hustle or a struggle to do what I did over here, because over there, the average price is $300. Over here, where I'm at now in Orange County, it's about $900.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's where it's been as far as volume and effort. A lot of time has been consumed in the coaching and training. It is a lot of work to help other agents. I do one-on-one. I have the podcast and the YouTube channel. I took a lot of time into providing products and a lot of free stuff. And the curse of being a coach and a trainer is that a lot of new agents will have a good year or two, and then they leave the business to be a coach, and then they find out that the business suffers and they can no longer do one or the other. I mean, it's a full-time job. Yeah. And so I could have done more if I wasn't giving so much back to the real estate community. But it's a passion of mine. I like to hear myself talk. And fortunately, there's people who will listen to what I have to say, because I have a lot to share about how to do this. You know, I've made a lot of mistakes, and I know how to do it right. But I invest a lot of time in giving back. Awesome. You know, not charitable work, not where I'm like painting people's houses, but I am speaking, you know, a lot and recording it. And like Gary Vee says, you know, and don't create, document. And I've always been a fan of just selfie dialogue in front of a camera and just posting it as often as I can. But it's time consuming.
Yeah.
If that answers your question.
It does. It does. And then in terms of, you know, some of your favorite tech tools, let's get a little techie for a second.
Right now, I just picked up the iPad Pro 2020 with the Magic Keyboard. I'm big on, I'm not an Apple fanboy. Most of what I use is like as I'm looking around as I'm talking to you, I use 3 27-inch monitors that are connected to an HP tower. And these 3 monitors are spread out for, you know, Mojo is one of the dialers I use, and then research. And then, you know, sometimes I live stream the content or create, or I'm editing. So the technology is just the 3 monitors, a tower, and then my iPad. I do have the iPhone 11 Pro Max.
Okay.
But yeah, my recent birth is that iPad Pro 2020. Man, $2,200 with a keyboard and the pencil. It just seems insane to spend. But the iPhone, you know, Pro Max was $1,400. It's just, I like having the best technology, because then I don't have an excuse not to create. You know, I do a lot of studying on that. But yeah, the technology really is just a lot of mojo. I do drone technology. I enjoy doing like the Instagram, the vlog style. But as far as my tech, I guess I call myself a techie, you know, Apple Watch, but most of what I use is the iPad Pro and the screens. As some of you might have seen, I do have a mobile realtor command center, which is a modified Sprinter van that has a full-blown, you know, real estate office on wheels with a Wi-Fi hotspot and a, you know, flat screen TV. And that's pretty rad. But you know, with the COVID, it's like right now with you know, the whole shutdown or lockdown, whatever you want to call it, this is my life, this little, you know, area right here where I'm just focused on hitting the numbers, lead generating with that technology. It's, you really don't need a whole lot of technology nowadays. AirPod Pros, you know, just keep me moving as streamlined as possible.
Love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. I like I said, I always think I have all these cool doodads. And I guess if you sat here, you'd be like, well, what about that thing? What about, I guess there's a lot. I mean, I have the mixer, but you know, it really, I've had so many of the tools, and I found out that you don't need much of anything if you just have the right, if you just strip down to the easiest things that you need: a good iPhone, a good pair of headphones, and a good iPad or a tower to do your calls. And that's really all you need.
Yeah.
And you have no excuses after that.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. Awesome. Well, I think that's all you had for your side, Dan.
I think that's it.
All right. Well, fantastic. So we got your backstory, know kind of where you're at now. So where do you see yourself in your business in the next 5 years after everything that you've seen and gone through and moving? Where do you see yourself?
Well, I confess to a lot of mistakes. So I always like to shoot back, and I hope a lot of your crowd are people who will learn. I want to give that you guys understand investing in yourself. Where do I see myself a couple of years from now? I don't think I'll ever retire. I would hope I have a couple more books under my belt. I've published 2, but I would still like to have a teaching platform. But it's because of what I teach is really a lot of work. Like when people follow my systems, it's because they're going to go into a hard place. It's like when you get your real estate license, you join the Navy or the Army.
Yeah.
When you decide what path you're going to take from there, what I expect and what I demand on people is to be a Navy SEAL or Green Beret, because it's like I want to do anything but that. Once you find out, okay, now I'm going to go on door knock and I'm going to prospect. That's such a small subsection of the military, like the Navy SEALs, where it's like, you got to be really hard. So I would hope that I would have a diehard following of people who understand and really grasp the work and the grit of it. It is, this hustle culture has been overhyped, and it's easy to put that on your Instagram as a title or a hashtag, but to actually have like the blisters and the swamp ass and like the really just hell of it all, but with success. It's work hard, play hard, but not as a meme. So I would hope that I would have impacted enough people where I can go places and real estate agents have a platform where people are like, yeah, thank you, man. I want to have people thank me. I think that was it. Just to be thanked for the effort, but that they know it's from a place where they worked really hard. Like a training you guys to do a marathon. And then when you finish, I'm at the finish line and you guys are tearing up and go, man, I showed you how, but man, you guys ran it, and, respect to do that. That's kind of what I want.
I love it. That's
yeah.
awesome. A good 5-year goal. So we're getting closer to the end of the show. I know Dan has a question he would like to ask, and I have a couple more for you.
Yeah, this is my favorite question I like to ask, and you've kind of touched a little bit on it, but a newly licensed agent, what would be the golden nugget of advice you would give them going into the real estate sector over the next 2 to 3, 4, or 5 years in their career?
When you come into this business, you're going to find out 2 paths that you're going to go by. You're going to either find that you want to be an active pursuer of business, or you're going to be a passive individual who buys the business to come to you. Both sides work. There was an episode of Tom and Jerry, the cartoon, if you guys remember that.
Yeah.
Where Tom the cat is laying at the bottom of a hill, and Jerry's kind of hanging off to the side, and an egg rolls down the hill, and it rolls under Tom's butt. And the egg cracks open and hatches, and it's a duck. And the duck looks at Tom and goes, "Mama!" And Jerry's off in the distance, and he goes, "No, that's not your mom." And so the whole cartoon is about Tom preparing the duck to eat him, and Jerry is off to the side trying to save him from being eaten. And the duck's like in a boiling pot, and he's like, "Thanks, Mama, for making me a warm bath." And Tom's like making, putting all the ingredients, and Jerry's like, "No," and he's like, "Thanks for making me a bed," but it's like a sandwich that he's making him. So it's important that if you are first starting out, you need to know that what happens in that Tom and Jerry cartoon is that you become imprinted, that you become branded on a specific path. And if it's too late that I haven't caught you, hopefully you can like backpedal and find out who's your mama or who's your daddy, and discover that there's going to be like 2 paths right now that people go by. They're going to say, when I was growing up, they would ask in the business, they would ask, who do you follow? Are you a Floyd Wickman or a Mike Ferry guy, right? And nowadays people will say, oh, are you a Tom Ferry guy or a Mike Ferry guy? And that indicates, are you passive and you do a lot of like keyboard, renegade stuff on the internet, and you pay for leads and you do a lot of marketing and farming, which is a Tom Ferry, it works, but it's passive, not necessarily like hardcore door knocking, hardcore prospecting? Or are you a Mike Ferry guy where you just pick up the phone and just pound through it? And that separates two different tribes. So as a new agent, you need to identify which one you do and then narrow down the best of what works. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. There are no new technologies. Everybody's all about, the social media. I do a lot of social media. Do I get business from it? Not really. The things that you are led to believe that work are usually taught by people who are selling you a program on how it works, but no one, if you see like the top agents in your town, maybe you have 3 or 4, but if you really study what they're doing, it's not tweeting and Instagram, and it's a whole nother thing. And it's probably comparing yourself. So the two things would be, make sure you stay and know your place and know what role you're going to perform, but that also you have your expectations in line with reality. So if you come into this business and you look at the top agent, you think, man, that guy's a ding dong. If he can do it, so can I. And then a year later, you're like, why is he kicking my butt? And you start getting cynical without understanding or noticing that individual has been in the business for 10 years. And when you go to their website and you click on the About Me, they've got 5 people working under them. And here you are, a brand new agent, completely flying by the seat of your pants, thinking that you're going to compete with 10 individuals with 10 years in your first year. The only way you're going to be able to do that is work 10 times harder. With 5 more people. And maybe you'll catch up at 50% of the way and they'll be ahead of you. So it's like you're trying to go into the game of running a marathon, like from couch to marathon, and looking at like Usain Bolt or one of the big guys and saying, I can do that. And you're not. Like, they just set your expectations based on what you can do. And if you're going to look to compare to other people, make sure that you're comparing yourself to individuals who you can compete against, that are your same genetics, like the same mindset and the same source, that it is truly a single agent, that it is truly someone who's not spending 10 grand on Zillow, and you don't have that. How can you look at them and be jealous if they're not what you are? There's 3 ladies in my region who kick butt. I can't compare because I've moved here 4 years ago. They've been here 20 years and they're all about the town, and they've got clout and recognition. How can I undermine that? And the way to undermine your competition is the old-fashioned way: door knocking and cold calling, and get to the individual before the pros land them first, and start building that relationship. So yeah, just stay as a new agent, stay in your place, know your role, and have your expectations be something that it doesn't disappoint you, because most agents burn out, but it's because they're doing the wrong thing. Again, they got the wrong mama, or they landed with the wrong daddy, and the daddy says, you should do this, when it doesn't work. And when they say most people who can't do teach. And no offense to most managers, but most managers are just someone who is there to fill the managerial role, who wasn't producing much business. Very few top mega producers call it quits and be a manager and pop off one or do 2 deals, unless there's something else. So you got to just, if you're going to compare, it's healthy to be competitive. Just know that you're playing against yourself, and be the best you that you can be. And it's totally possible with the basics. Don't be defeated by comparing and false expectations and doing the wrong things.
Awesome. No, good advice for sure. So tying into that, books. I know you said you published a couple books, or any books, podcasts you should recommend to these individuals.
Yeah. My podcast, just search James Festini on iTunes. It's called Your First Day in Real Estate, which it was interesting when they told us that we were non-essential or furloughed or shut down. I was like, what does that mean? I've been unemployed since 1993, man. Every morning I wake up and I got 0. If I don't pick up the phone, and there's no unemployment, there's no nothing. So for me, it's like, you're not talking to me when you say, stay at home. Fine. It's just prospecting. I wrote the right book at the wrong time. I'll hold it up. Dynamic door knocking. This is really, like, if it wasn't me who wrote it, it's still brilliant. It really is everything I know about door knocking. I'm tempted to go into the editor software and change the word door to phone and the word knock to call and just say update all, because it would be the same thing on the phone and the door, and that is massive amounts of contacts looking for individuals who might be interested and nurture them. So it is dynamic door knocking. It is absolutely still a valid book. I mean, if you're thinking because you're locked down, who knows? If this episode comes out in 4 weeks, we might be in a whole nother world by then.
Yeah.
Who knows? But being able to predict your business without costing a lot of money is a very hard thing to do. And the one thing that still remains is prospecting. There's only 5 methods for you to get business. There's mail, email, and text message or communication or marketing. Mail, email, messenger, MMS, SMS, and that also includes platforms with a digital reception like Zillow, Truly, Realtor.com. These 3 are passive methods for you to acquire business. There are only 2 methods in existence for you to go out and get it: the telephone and the door, and that's it. All of these other ones, there's thousands and thousands of ways you can do this with mail, email, text messages, farming, online, whatever, bomb, whatever you use. They're all passive. You send it, even a text, you could send it and they could ignore it. I focus on these 2, the ones where I can speak to a human and they have no choice but to right now tell me yes or no, which often yes is just a maybe, which is fine. But these 2, telemarketing is under serious assault still. I mean, ever since the do not call list, but there's been things that have been going on that are more impactful than the do not call list last year that no one's talking about. It's called shake and stir. I'm not even going to go there, but it's technology that's beaten the heads of the telemarketing world, which leaves us with the door. And the door is the last true frontier, legal frontier without, the stigma of telemarketing that you'll have. So in the next couple of years, the telemarketing will be on life support, probably never a coma, but it'll definitely be on life support. And you will have to either hit the streets or pay money to get the business. So yeah, find me from my book on Amazon, Dynamic Door Knocking. You can find my podcast. It's Your First Day in Real Estate. I'm on YouTube. I do a lot of YouTube videos where, half of it's vlogging, where I do the day in the life of what I'm doing every day. Instagram, I do a ton of Instagram, which ends up on YouTube anyhow. So between podcasting, Instagram, and YouTube, I produce enough content so that you don't really have to go anywhere else unless it's neutral parties like you guys where you're collecting information. Yep. On a final note, the best thing one of you guys can share is that stay off of Facebook, stay off of YouTube. If you're trying to figure out the secret sauce to real estate, it's not on YouTube, man. It's just, there's so much bad information out there and so many fly-by-night, nobody's giving this bad information on what to do. It's cringeworthy how much false information is out there. As a new agent especially, you guys are like the prime target of funnels, click funnels, to sell you the next shiny object, and you'll spend this money and you'll find out there was nothing there. You just got to know ahead of time, is it active or is it passive, what you're about to buy into? And if you're buying into something that land in your lap, it's probably too good to be true and it probably doesn't work. Someone's teaching you to go out and pick it up, on the street. That's believable.
Yeah.
So I want to stop people from failing, and I want to discourage people from coming in because it's a lot harder. You know what I mean? That's why my company never puts me on the panel anymore, because I tell like it is. Hey, you guys ready to sweat? Here's what it's going to be. And I'm going to sit back and, especially now, the business, the game has changed. I think 80% of the real estate industry has left the business and they just don't know it yet. But I think they left. I think they're gone. And so now, one more time, the flushing of the dingleberries that have been clinging on to the business are gone. And now it's going to require ridiculous skills, really good scripts, really good ability on technology, not just saying you can do it, showing that you can do it, having serious clout and reach. It's a different game, and you can level up. It's not that hard. Just find the people who are there.
Yeah.
They're out there.
Lots of good information, man. I feel like I'm got a coaching session
I'm just here to help, guys. I want everyone to be a total badass and like get respect in this business. And it's the people who have made our business ugly are the very same people who aren't working. You know what I mean? They're trying to cut corners and they're trying to do something stupid and it makes us look bad. You know, there's no hardcore good attorneys who are getting crapped on. You know what I mean? They all get the blame of being bad, but the good ones survive. And same thing with the real estate agents. There's only a handful of pros in every town, and you know them when you see them. You know, they're in the top of their game. Follow them. And if they're doing something good, you see the mailer in the mail, you see their advertising, they're doing it. And don't believe that they're doing it based on your opinion and what you see. Go into your MLS and check if they're actually doing it. Because a lot of these people, they eat crap and burp turkey is what they call it. You know, they eat a cup of noodles and they talk about caviar. It's not the reality. This is a strange business where wearing a mask has been, you know, a very common thing to make you look good. When you lift up the veil, it's all just smoke and mirrors, and you just got to keep an honest business and work hard. You'll be all right.
Yeah, love it. I love it. Well, we're at the end of the show now. Thank you for all the knowledge and information for our listeners and viewers. Is there anything you're working on or something you would like to share really quick before we end?
Work hard, play hard, man. Everyone always asks, what are my goals? I'm like, man, just don't suck. You know, I have a minimum standard of hitting 100 calls a day, like contacts a day. And so I'm not looking too far into the future because I'm just, you know, just like when you're, again, running a marathon, you're not looking at like the finish line. You're taking, you know, one step at a time, 1 mile at a time. What I do have another 3 or 4 books in me. And, you know, maintaining my reputation online as a provider and a hustler, you know, walks the walk and talks the talk. That's really the goal for now. And helping podcasts like you guys, where you guys are out there trying to share legitimate content. And it's important that you guys vet your, you know, people before you go in. That's why when I saw the people you were in there, I'm like, okay, I want to be part of that crowd. And they're not just, you know, they're not just lighting fire. They're not just throwing matches in the air and calling it fireworks. You know? Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I appreciate you guys being there.
Yeah, thanks.
Good stuff.
7+ years. We used to be Support RE, then we're Liftoff Agent. We came out the podcast about 6 months ago, and now where people are reaching out to us, it's been amazing. We had a top 1% agent assistant reach out to us today. So the podcast is growing. We appreciate you being a part of it. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, of course. The knowledge that you gave. Dan, thank you so much for being a part of this as well. Much appreciated. And of course, thanks for all of our listeners and viewers. We hope you took something from today's episode that you can apply to your business so you can have more massive success. And we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. We hope you found value and took something you can apply to your business today. Be sure to join our community on Facebook, Real Estate vs. Technology, all spelled out. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We would appreciate it. It's Real Estate Tech. And of course, if you or someone else you know would like to be a part of our show, just go ahead and send us an email. It's reversetechtalk@gmail.com, and we'll see you next week.